Hey, welcome back. We're going to continue reading A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms by George R. R. Martin, the Hedge Knight, so let's get back into it. Egg had worked manfully at the campsite. Dunk was pleased. He had been half afraid his squire would run off again. "Did you get a good price for your palfrey?" the boy asked. "How did you know I'd sold her?" "You rode off and walked back, and if robbers had stolen her, you'd be more angry than you are." "I got enough for this." Dunk took out his new armour to show the boy. "And if you're ever to be a knight, you'll need to know good steel from bad. Look here, this is fine work. This mail is double chain, each link bound to two others, see? It gives more protection than single chain. And the helm, pits round at the top, see how it curves? A sword or an axe will slide off, where they might bite through a flat-topped helm." Dunk lowered the great helm over his head. "How does it look?" "There's no visor," Egg pointed out. "There are air holes. Visors are points of weakness." Steely Pate had said as much. "If you knew how many knights have taken an arrow in the eye as they lifted their visor for a suck of cool air, you'd never want one," he told Dunk. "There's no crest either," said Egg. "It's just plain." Dunk lifted off the helm. "Plain is fine for the likes of me. See how bright the steel is? It will be your task to keep it that way. You know how to scour mail?" "In a barrel of sand," said the boy. "But you don't have a barrel. Did you buy a pavilion too, sir?" "I didn't get that good a price. The boy is too bold for his own good. I ought to beat that out of him." He knew he would not, though. He liked the boldness. He needed to be bolder himself. "My squire is braver than I am, and more clever." "You did well here, Egg," Dunk told him. "On the morrow, you'll come with me. Have a look at the tourney grounds. We'll buy oats for the horses and fresh bread for ourselves. Maybe a bit of cheese as well. They were selling good cheese at one of the stalls." "I won't need to go into the castle, will I?" "Why not? One day I mean to live in a castle. I hope to win a place above the salt before I'm done." The boy said nothing. Perhaps he fears to enter a lord's hall, Dunk reflected. That's no more than might be expected. He will grow out of it in time. He went back to admiring his armour and wondering how long he would wear it. Sir Manfred was a thin man with a sour look on his face. He wore a black surcoat slashed with the purple lightning of House Dondarrion, but Dunk would have remembered him anyway from his unruly mane of red gold hair. "Sir Arlen served your father when he and Lord Karen burned the Vulture King out of the Red Mountains, sir," he said from one knee. "I was only a boy then, but I squired for him, Sir Arlen of Pennytree." Sir Manfred scowled. "No, I know him not, nor you, boy." Dunk showed him the old man's shield. This was his sigil, the winged chalice. "My lord father took 800 knights and near 4,000 foot into the mountains. I cannot be expected to remember every one of them, nor what shields they carried. It may be that you were with us, but—" Sir Manfred shrugged. Dunk was struck speechless for an instant. "The old man took a wound in your father's service. How can you have forgotten him?" "They will not allow me to challenge unless some knight or lord will vouch for me." "And what is that to me?" said Sir Manfred. "I have given you enough of my time, sir." If he went back to the castle without Sir Manfred, he was lost. Dunk eyed the purple lightning embroidered across the black wool of Sir Manfred's surcoat and said, "I remember your father telling the camp how your house got its sigil. One stormy night, as the first of your line bore a message across the Dornish marches, an arrow killed his horse beneath him and spilled him on the ground. 2 Dornishmen came out of the darkness in ringmail and crested helms. His sword had broken beneath him when he fell. When he saw that, he thought he was doomed. But as the Dornishmen closed in to cut him down, lightning cracked from the sky. It was bright, burning purple, and it split, striking the Dornishmen in their steel and killing them both where they stood. The message gave the Storm King victory over the Dornish, and in thanks he raised the messenger to lordship. He was the first Lord Dondarrion, so he took for his arms a forked purple lightning bolt, on a black field powdered with stars. If Dunk thought the tale would impress Sir Manfred, he could not have been more wrong. Every potboy and groom who has ever served my father hears that story soon or late. Knowing it does not make you a knight. Be gone with you, sir. It was with a leaden heart that Dunk returned to Ashford Castle, wondering what he might say so the plumber would grant him the right of challenge. The steward was not in his turret chamber, however. A guard told him he might be found in the great hall. "Shall I wait here?" Dunk asked. "How long will he be?" "How should I know? Do what you please." The great hall was not so great as halls went, but Ashford was a small castle. Dunk entered through a side door and spied the steward at once. He was standing with Lord Ashford and a dozen other men at the top of the hall. He walked toward them, beneath a wall hung with wool tapestries of fruits and flowers. "More concerned if they were your sons, I'll wager," an angry man was saying as Dunk approached. His straight hair and square-cut beard was so fair that they seemed white in the dimness of the hall, but as he got closer, he saw that they were in truth a pale silvery colour, touched with gold. "Darren has done this before," another replied. Plummer was standing so as to block Dunk's view of the speaker. "You should never have commanded him to enter the lists. He belongs on the tourney field no more than Ares does, or Rhaegal." "By which you mean he'd sooner ride a horse than a horse," the first man said. "Thickly built and powerful. The prince, he was surely a prince, wore leather in a brigantine covered with silver studs beneath a black heavy coat trimmed with ermine. Pock scars covered his cheeks, only partly concealed by a silvery beard. I do not need to be reminded of my son's failings, brother. He has only 18 years. He can change. He will change, God be damned, or I swear I'll see him dead. Don't be an utter fool. Daron is what he is. But he is still your blood, and mine. I have no doubt Sir Roland will turn up, and Aegon with him. When the tourney is over, perhaps. Aerion is here. He is a better lance than Daron in any case, if it is the tourney that concerns you." Dunk could see the speaker now. He was seated in the high seat, a sheaf of parchments in one hand, Lord Ashford hovering at his shoulder. Even seated, he looked to be a head taller than the other, to judge from the long, straight legs stretched out before him. His short-cropped hair was dark and peppered with grey, his strong jaw clean-shaven. His nose looked as though it had been broken more than once. Though he was dressed very plainly, in a green doublet, brown mantle and scuffed boots, there was a weight to him, a sense of power and certainty. It came to Dunk that he had walked in on something that he ought never have heard. "I had best go and come back later when they are done," he decided. But it was already too late. The prince with the silvery beard suddenly took note of him. "Who are you, and what do you mean by bursting in on us?" he demanded harshly. "He is the knight that our good steward was expecting," the seated man said, smiling at Dunk in the way that suggested he had been aware of him all the time. "You and I are the intruders here, brother. Come closer, sir." Dunk edged forward, uncertain what was expected of him. He looked at Plummer, but got no help here. The pinched-faced steward who had been so forceful yesterday now stood silent, studying the stones of the floor. "My lords," he said, "I asked Sir Manfred Dondarrion to vouch for me so I might enter the lists, but he refuses. He says he knows me not. Sir Ireland served him, though, I swear it. I have his sword and shield. A sword and shield do not make a knight," declared Lord Ashford, a big, bold man with a round face. "Plummer has spoken to me of you. Even if we accept that these arms belong to this Sir Ireland of Pennytree, it may well be that you found him dead and stole them. Unless you have some better proof of what you say, some writing, or—" "I remember Sir Ireland of Pennytree," the man in the high seat said quietly. "He never won a tourney that I know. But he never shamed himself either. At King's Landing 16 years ago, he overthrew Lord Stokeworth and the bastard apparent wall in the melee, and many years before at Lannisport, he unhorsed the Grey Lion himself. The lion was not so grey then, to be sure." "He told me about that, many a time," said Dunk. The tall man studied him. "Then you will remember the Grey Lion's true name, I have no doubt." For a moment, there was nothing in Dunk's head at all. 1,000 times the old man had told that tale. 1,000 times. The lion, the lion. His name, his name, his name. He was near despair when it suddenly came. "Sir Damon Lannister," he shouted. "The Grey Lion. He's Lord of Casterly Rock now." "So he is," said the tall man pleasantly. "And he enters the lists on the morrow." He rattled the sheaf of papers in his hand. "How can you possibly remember some insignificant hedge knight who chanced to unhorse Damon Lannister 16 years ago?" said the prince with the silver beard, frowning. "I make it a practice to learn all I can of my foes. Why would you deign to joust with a hedge knight?" It was 9 years past at Storm's End. Lord Baratheon held a hastaloo to celebrate the birth of a grandson. The lots made Sir Arlan my opponent in the first tilt. We broke 4 lances before I finally unhorsed him. 7, insisted Dunk, and that was against the Prince of Dragonstone. No sooner were the words out than he wanted them back. Dunk the lump, thick as a castle wall. He could hear the old man chiding. "So it was." The prince with the broken nose smiled gently. "Tales grow in the telling, I know. Do not think ill of your old master, but it was 4 lances only, I fear." Dunk was grateful that the hall was dim. He knew his ears were red. "My lord, no, that was wrong too. Your grace." He fell to his knees and lowered his head. "As you say, 4. I meant no, I never... The old man, Sir Arlan, he used to say I was thick as a castle wall and slow as an aurochs." "And strong as an aurochs, by the look of you," said Baelor Breakspear. "No harm was done, sir. Rise." Dunk got to his feet, wondering if he should keep his head down or if he was allowed to look a prince in the face. "I am speaking with Baelor Targaryen, Prince of Dragonstone, hand of the king and heir apparent to the Iron Throne of Aegon the Conqueror. What could a hedge knight dare say to such a person?" You gave him back his horse and armour and took no ransom, I remember," he stammered. "The old Sir Arlan, he told me you were the soul of chivalry, and that one day the 7 kingdoms would be safe in your hands." "Not for many a year still, I pray," Prince Baelor said. "No," said Dunk, horrified. He almost said, "I didn't mean that the king should die," but stopped himself in time. "I am sorry, my lord, your grace, I mean." Belatedly, he recalled that the stocky man with the silver beard had addressed Prince Baelor as brother. "He is blood of the dragon as well. Damn me for a fool." He could only be Prince Maekar, the youngest of King Daeron's 4 sons. Prince Aerys was bookish and Prince Rhaegal mad, meek and sickly. Neither was like to cross half the realm to attend a tourney, but Maekar was said to be a redoubtable warrior in his own right, though ever in the shadow of his eldest brother. "You wish to enter the lists, is that it?" asked Prince Baelor. "That decision rests with the Master of Games, but I see no reason to deny you." The steward inclined his head. "As you say, my lord." Dunk tried to stammer out thanks, but Prince Maekar cut him off. "Very well, sir. You are grateful. Now be off with you." "You must forgive my noble brother, sir," said Prince Baelor. "2 of his sons have gone astray on their way here, and he fears for them." "The spring rains have swallowed many of the streams," said Dunk. "Perhaps the princes are only delayed." "I did not come here to take counsel from a hedge knight," Prince Maekar declared to his brother. "You may go, sir," Prince Baelor told Dunk, not unkindly. "Yes, my lord," he bowed and turned. But before he could get away, the prince called after him. "Sir, one more thing. You are not of Sir Arlan's blood." "Yes, my lord. I mean, no, I'm not." The prince nodded at the battered shield Dunk carried and the winged chalice upon its face. "By law, only a true-born son is entitled to inherit a knight's arms. You must needs find a new device, sir, a sigil of your own." "I will," said Dunk. "Thank you again, your grace. I will fight bravely, you'll see. As brave as Baelor Breakspear," the old man would often say. The wine sellers and sausage makers were doing a brisk trade, and walked brazenly among the stalls and pavilions. Some were pretty enough. One red-haired girl in particular. He could not help staring at her breasts, the way they moved under her loose shift as she sauntered past. He thought of the silver in his pouch. I could have her if I liked. and she'd like the clink of my coin well enough. I could take her back to my camp and have her all night if I wanted. He had never lain with a woman, and for all he knew, he might die in his first tilt. Tourneys could be dangerous, but horse could be dangerous too. The old man had warned him of that. She might rob me while I slept, and what would I do then? When the red-haired girl glanced back over her shoulder at him, Dunk shook his head and walked away. He found Egg at the puppet show, sitting cross-legged on the ground with the hood of his cloak pulled all the way forward to hide his baldness. The boy had been afraid to enter the castle, which Dunk had put down to equal parts shyness and shame. He does not think of himself worthy to mingle with the lords and ladies, let alone great princes. It had been the same with him when he was little. The world beyond Fleabottom had seemed as frightening as it was exciting. Egg needs time, that's all. For the present, it seemed kinder to give the lad a few coppers and let him enjoy himself amongst the stalls than to drag him along unwillingly into the castle. This morning, the puppeteers were doing the tale of Florian and Jonquil. The fat Dornish woman was working Florian in his armour made of motley, while the tall girl held Jonquil's strings. "You are no knight," she was saying as the puppet's mouth moved up and down. "I know you. You are Florian the Fool." "I am, my lady," the other puppet answered, kneeling. "As great a fool as ever lived, and as great a knight as well." "A fool and a knight?" said Jonquil. "I have never heard of such a thing." "Sweet lady," said Florian, "all men are fools, and all men are knights where women are concerned." It was a good show, sad and sweet both, with a sprightly sword fight at the end, and a nicely painted giant. When it was over, the fat woman went amongst the crowd to collect coins, whilst the girl packed away the puppets. Dunk collected Egg and went up to her. "My lord," she said, with a sideways glance and half a smile. She was a head shorter than he was, but still taller than any other girl he had ever seen. "That was good," Egg infused. "I like how you made them move, Jonquil and the dragon and all. I saw a puppet show last year, but they moved all jerky. Yours are more smooth." "Thank you," she said to the boy politely. Dunk said, "Your figures are well carved too. The dragon especially, a fearsome beast. You make them yourself?" She nodded. "My uncle does the carving. I paint them." "Could you paint something for me? I have the coin to pay." He slipped the shield off his shoulder and turned it to show her. "I need to paint something over the chalice." The girl glanced at the shield, then at him. "What would you want to paint it?" Dunk had not considered that. If not the old man's winged chalice, what? His head was empty. Dunk the lunk, thick as a castle wall. I'm not certain." His ears were turning red, he realised miserably. "You must think me an utter fool." She smiled. "All men are fools, and all men are knights." "What colour paint do you have?" he asked, hoping that might give him an idea. "I can mix paint to any colour you want." The old man's brown had always seemed drab to Dunk. "The field should be the colour of a sunset," he said suddenly. The old man liked sunsets. "And the device—" "An elm tree," said Egg. "A big elm tree, like the one by the pool, with the brown trunk and green branches." "Yes," Dunk said, "that would serve. An elm tree. But with a shooting star above. Could you do that?" The girl nodded. "Give me the shield, I'll paint it this very night and have it back to you on the morrow." Dunk handed it over. "I'm called Sir Dunk on the Tall." "I'm Tanzelle," she laughed. "Tanzelle Too Tall, the boys used to call me." "You're not too tall," Dunk blurted out. "You're just right for—" He realised what he had been about to say and blushed furiously. "For?" said Tanzelle, cocking her head inquisitively. "Puppets," he finished lamely. That's where we're going to draw the line today, because I've got to go out. Sorry it's a bit dark. I just realised that the light has gone. I need to buy a new light, apparently. Anyway, you have a good day. How did you enjoy that? Don't forget to like, subscribe, turn on your notifications, leave a comment, tell me if you're having a good day, and I'll see you next time. Cheerio.